they will enter this year with as strong, if not stronger, receiving core than they entered last year. Because last year, Xavier Worthy was, in the I know he had a good week one game actually against Baltimore, but he was a rookie.
Yep.
Hollywood had gotten hurt. Kelsey wasn't fully right in the beginning of the year. And so all of that, they did have Rashee, but then they quickly thereafter lost him. So I think that it will not be as jarring for Mahomes as I think it would be for maybe some other quarterbacks, because last year they were so undermanned throughout. The real question is going to be, is Xavier Worthy going to follow the exact Rashee Rice trajectory from year one to year two? Because he did follow it in year one. Here's their Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy after week 10 through the Super Bowl, what both of them did. And then so they're both around 7 touches a game, almost the exact same yards per game. Xavier had more touchdowns. A couple of those were rushing. They weren't using Rashee in that capacity. And then how did Rashee look at the beginning of his sophomore year? He was through 3 weeks as productive as any receiver in football. He then, of course, suffered the injury in the Charger game. We haven't seen him since. And I know you poke fun at the end of the Super Bowl, and I understand that. But Xavier Worthy's performance in that playoff run, most notably in the Super Bowl as a whole, and I know he caught the long bomb when the game was out of reach, if that is the path that he's on, then they'll be fine. He and Hollywood, are fine. And then Rashee comes back, whenever he comes back, as the best receiver on the team. And then for the first time in a couple years, Brew, the Chiefs actually have a plus receiving core. Without Rashee, I think they will just have an average receiving core.
Okay. I mean, trying to compare the trajectory of Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy really makes, no actual sense. There's no actual logic behind it outside of that they played the same team. I mean, they're different receivers entirely. So it's just, I don't even really get the comparison or why that's even part of the take, and that really has nothing to do with really nothing to do with anything, quite frankly. Look at Xavier Worthy for what he's achieved this season, last season, and just look at it through that lens and how much development you think he has individually, how much he can improve, how much he can grow, what else Andy Reid will be able to do with him, the chemistry and the relationship that Xavier Worthy will have with Patrick Mahomes, things of that nature. So that's the lens where how you're gonna want to look at it more than anything. Comparing it to Rashee Rice just doesn't really make any sense to me. I think losing Rashee Rice for the beginning of the season will of course hurt them, but this is the NFL. We see lesser teams and lesser quarterbacks and lesser coaches survive and make do without their wide receiver one. We've seen that plenty of times. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown got knocked out week 1 and then missed, a whole bunch of games. So it's just that happens. C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans lost every single receiver throughout the year, multiple at a time, and were able to still find ways through. There's just endless examples. So this is hardly like, oh no, now they're done, right? Or, oh gosh, if he's suspended for 6 games, yeah, you have hard games: the Chargers, the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Lions, right? I get that fully, but it's just not enough. And I do think Xavier Worthy will be great and have a ton of success. I think, Xavier Worthy will clearly be more comfortable and will be better in year 2. I mean, typically wide receivers in year 1 don't necessarily hit the ground running and show truly what they're capable of as a receiver in year 1. You just, for the most part, you don't see that. It's not like a running back type situation or whatnot. It takes a minute or two to kind of get comfortable and find your place on a team. And of course, that'll be even expedited even more so with someone like Andy Reid and having a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. So I'm sure Andy is definitely going to expand the playbook for Xavier Worthy and whatnot. I think the real conversation more so, or the real discussion is that I'm sure this year, since things were so messy last year, and it was just kind of like, you know, it's it was there was a lot to do offensively and what the Chiefs needed to do to be able to survive. And I feels like this year they were ready to just try to actually build this new foundation of what their long-term offense, what their long-term core will look like. Specifically with Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, Pacheco, Mahomes. And you're obviously still going to have Kelsey. You're still going to have a couple other cast of characters, Hollywood Brown and whatnot. But like, to really get settled in, this should be what we got for the next 3 years or so, right? 4 years, where we can really build off of this. And now now knowing Rashee Rice is going to be suspended, it's like, I'm curious to see, and I won't really know, none of us will really know, like, how does Andy Reid handle that? Like, what does, and also the suspension, is he going to be now available for any of the for any of the preseason activities, the workouts, practices? Sometimes you're allowed there, sometimes you're not. Sometimes it's just like you're not even allowed in the building. Sometimes you're allowed in the building, but you can't do other stuff. So it's just like, we'll have to wait and see exactly what this looks like. I mean, also, I don't know because since he's also got sentenced to prison, like, is that going to happen like now, or is that going to be deferred till after the season? I don't have that information, but I'm just curious in terms of, like, does Andy in a way, he's not obviously need to build two offenses, but like the mentality of what they were looking to do. Put it this way: with knowing Rashee Rice was fully healthy and ready to go, and they were going to start, hit the ground running, what they were going to do in the offseason, what they were going to work on, what they were going to try to build and grow and evolve, they can't do now. And so now they are going to have to fundamentally game plan and have a different approach for the first 6 weeks or so. That's the thing. I believe that someone like Rashee Rice, let's say he does miss the first 6 weeks, I believe that he can get reintegrated and put in week 7, especially because it's not like he's coming back because of an injury where he has to now, like, get, reacquainted with his body and comfortable and all of that. Like, obviously I know he got injured before, but at this point now, a lot of time would have passed. And so it's not the same thing as, like, you just got injured and now you're coming back. So, like, I believe, like, he'd still be able to hit the ground running, but it's just, I'm looking at this more from a coaching perspective than anything else. When players are injured and players are in and out of the lineup, and you're bringing in new pieces, or pieces are leaving and then they're coming back later, like, I look at it through the lens so much more for coaching, because coaching is the one that have to make the decisions. They're the ones that have to figure out, okay, who do we elevate? Who do we downgrade? How do we fit someone else? How do we fit him back in? Okay, he's going to be here in week 7. Like, what do we need to do to get him back into this offense and a crucial part of this offense? Like, it's just, there's so much more decisions to be made from a coaching perspective than for a player perspective, honestly. So, yeah, I just, that's the lens that I kind of look at it through right now more than anything. And that is the benefit of having someone like an Andy Reid, to not have to, he's well versed in this over his decades of coaching. And of course, with the actual experience of Patrick Mahomes, where it's just like, yeah, I mean, like, Patrick Mahomes, he's the type of quarterback where you can kind of put anyone in front of him and he'll still find a way to make it work. It's not like you're going to be like, oh, Patrick Mahomes just, the chemistry is no longer there with Rashee Rice. It's like, no, that's not going to be a problem either. Or like, oh, he just doesn't know what to do now that Rashee Rice isn't in the lineup. And it's like, well, that's obviously not going to be the case either. But it's just, if anything, it's just more of a rather large inconvenience. I think that's honestly the best way that I could put it. It's a rather large inconvenience and a headache that you just don't want to have to deal with, right? Like, that's really what it is to me. It's like, oh gosh, all right. Like, I have to think about this more than I would have really wanted to, and it's an extra, it's an extra week's worth of work for Andy Reid to try to figure out, okay, what do I need to make this offseason look like now? Because also, like, I need to get Rashee again. And this is where it's interesting, because it's like, will he be there for preseason. Will he be there for camp? Will he be there? If he is, it's like, okay, how are you going to go about it, knowing he's going to be gone for the first 6 weeks? And if he's not there, it's just, and then at that point, Rashee Rice will almost be gone now for like, it'll end up being like a full year or so of him now missing time. And it's not like he's like a 5-year seasoned veteran. Just different. It's just a frustrating thing to have to deal with. That's really what it gets boiled down to, more than anything. But I still think the Chiefs will be, set up for plenty of success. But it's not the easiest schedule to have the Chargers, the Eagles, and the Ravens 3 out of the first 4 games, and potentially missing your wide receiver 1. But I think Xavier Worthy will probably end up becoming that wide receiver where people are like, he's a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2. On some teams, he's a 1, like kind of the T. Higgins, Devontae, and again, different style receivers, but that type of attitude towards them where it's just kind of like, oh, like he could be a number 1 on some of, or like when it's time for him to get his contract, it's going to be like he thinks that he deserves a lot more money and this or that. So I don't think Xavier Worthy is just this like afterthought receiver by any stretch of the imagination. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about this offense and how this can affect the Kansas City Chiefs with the suspension of Rashee Rice? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.